Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to your review of Watford 3, Norwich City 2 at Vicarage Road with myself, Jacob Coleshaw, the fabulous, the main man, Mr. Charlie Zazera. Charlie, it's great to have you back, mate. How have you been? How's life?
It's good to be back. It's a bit fresh outside, isn't it? I saw your match day TikTok, which if anyone hasn't seen, make sure you check that out. A bit fresh outside, but I was doing a bit of armchair supporting last night, but what I saw in the game pleased me. So I've got a bit of a spring in my step.
What's your routine like when you're watching from home? Because obviously when you go to the Vic, you kind of make a day of it. You go to the pub before, even if it's a midweek game. I didn't have time, but you get there in decent time, take in the atmosphere. Are you sort of 5 minutes before the game starts on TV, rocking up on the sofa, or are you taking in the whole hour pre-match coverage?
It depends really, but normally I just try and keep busy up until kickoff, so I'm not thinking about the game, and the game just happens. Yesterday I had a quick change of t-shirts because the t-shirt I wore on Saturday, which we lost in, was bad luck, so made that crucial swap. We'll talk about the game in a bit, but obviously my girlfriend's a City fan as well, so both of us, both teams 2-0 down, went on to win 3-0, so a happy household last night.
Are you saying Watford are as good as Man City?
Really? It took them to the half time to come back. We did it earlier, so perhaps.
Yeah, we did it much earlier. I have to say, just kind of starting on that with yesterday's game, I said to Charlie before we started today, I honestly thought after 12 minutes when Danny Barth and Ujo scored for Norwich, that the game was done. I think there's plenty of times we've seen this Watford team not come back and not show the desire, the attitude, the resilience like we did yesterday to come from behind and get back in the game and let alone win it. So, Charlie, just your initial thoughts and your feelings the morning after the night before.
Yeah, really pleased. Like you said, first half an hour, I think I put a message in the chat. I think first half an hour we were playing like Barnet, and then the last hour we were playing like Barcelona. Especially after that Kone goal, we really just exploded into life and just looked like a really good team. But I can't stress that first half an hour, I did think we were really, really poor. And before we kind of talk about all the positives, I do think Norwich are they've had a couple of positive results, but I think they only had one shot on target against QPR. I think they only had like 30% possession against QPR. So although they win, they have been really, really poor recently. So although it's really positive signs, a great result, great the way we came back. To see this team take to the next level, I want to see a really strong performance against a good team. And we've got plenty of those coming up, so they're going to be the test.
Interesting, you mentioned the stats there, Charlie, and Charlie will do a bit of a sort of analysis on key players and overall performances. But Watford had 21 shots to Norwich City's 12, 9 on target, and 66% possession for Watford at home to Norwich. So in the end, we really did dominate. I think actually, Charlie, when I look back on yesterday, from the minute we scored Kone's goal, maybe 5 minutes before that, up until maybe the last periods of the game, it felt like Watford were in control of the game. It felt like the momentum was definitely towards our direction, and even it kind of felt inevitable to an extent that we would actually go on to win the game, which I haven't felt with this team for a while. So did you have a similar feeling watching from home that we were going to win that game? Because I have to say, I felt that it was going that way.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about the momentum, how it's going. I'll just bring up the momentum bar, and from that Kone goal, we've completely dominated the whole of the second part of the first half. And then, coming out of the blocks in the second half, completely dominated. Obviously, we had the standard Watfordy wobble towards the end, but that's to be expected. You say, did I expect us to win? I'll be completely honest. Like, there was a bit of a lull in the second half, and I think I put a message in saying we can't put our foot on the gas because I'd be really disappointed if we don't win this game. But we've done enough to kind of keep our energies up, keep shooting on goal, which I think if anyone hasn't seen the mic'd up Val Ishmael video that the club put out last week, is a really, really interesting watch. Shows kind of how they prep for the session. And one of Val's big messages was like, shoot like Kayembe and Martins did against Rotherham, shoot like Sema did against Swansea. And you can see with the shooting stats, I think we've got the 9th most shots in the league this season. You ran through those stats there. I wanted to get to some bad points first in terms of stats. I've done this screenshot before, but second minute set piece goals, we've now got the most We've conceded the most set piece goals in the Championship this season. Not good enough. But then you look at the XG against, and we've got the best record in the Championship. So we've still got a really good structure and limited teams to good chances. But we need to get that set piece coaching. I saw we were linked with that one from Tottenham. I can't remember his name. Was it Gianni Vio or something like that?
Yes, and funnily enough, I spoke to spoke to a couple of Spurs fans, and they said their set pieces did improve quite dramatically, particularly offensively, interesting more than defensively. So I don't know if that's something worth to bear in mind, how much it would impact. I mean, it would definitely improve. I think the question is, Charlie, just on that before you move on, the zonal marking at corners, because it happened again in the second minute, and I was trying to work out in real time who's at fault there. It was a good delivery. It was a bit too easy for Danny Bath to get above everyone to knock it in. It just felt very easy, really, from the sideline. So who's to blame there? Is that a tactical? Is that coaching responsibility, or is that players on the pitch taking responsibility and actually, marking up properly?
Yeah, for me, I tend to lean on. I think it's more. I want to see our two centre halves taking control of that box. I know zonal marking is what they've been doing, and maybe it's not just on those two defenders, but I just feel like every set piece, I'm looking at where's Porteous. Obviously, we're going zonal for corners, but other set pieces we're not, and I expect them to kind of dominate. Obviously, we know what we're dealing with in terms of goalkeeping, but I'm looking at those two more. I thought Wesley Hoot was getting back to the form we saw early season. I thought he was excellent. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Are you more blaming the system, or do you think the players should do more? What do you reckon about zonal marking?
So I have to say, I think this is on Val personally, because the zonal marking's a decision made by the coach at the end of the day. There is an element, I agree, Charlie, that the players have to take responsibility on the pitch. You're looking at your two centre-backs who are big personalities as well to organise properly. And I guess the keeper's involved in that discussion as well. But I think the coach has made a conscious decision to go with zonal marking, and we could have changed that. And the fact that we've continued with that means, ultimately, I think Val is probably largely responsible for the fact that we've still continued with this method. So I like to think that he looks at that, as he did with the backman discussion, as he's done a couple of times this season, review it and go, you know what, can we move on? Can we change the way we're doing our set pieces? And as you say, if we do bring in a set piece coach, you'd like to think that would change. And I guess just moving on, Charlie, to the second goal. I mean, it was a disaster class for that first 15 minutes or so. Who's responsible for the second one? Because Watford couldn't get a grip on the game. Norwich came out the blocks quickly. It's a good finish. Does Hamer need to be doing better? Does Porteous need to be finding a better pass? Who's to blame for that one?
Yeah, I think initially Porto's pass in field put us in a really bad decision. They obviously won it and were out our defence. It is a great strike from their player. We put out a tweet putting out the goal saying who's to blame. Is it Hamer? I think a top keeper does save that. And I think even if you lip read him straight after, he might have said should have got that or something. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Backman and Hamer coming in. I do think what I've seen of Hamer doesn't feel me too much confident. I don't think Backman's got too much competition for that number one shirt. And I think at times just that Hamer looked a bit unsure positionally when he was running out, then kind of hesitating. So I think it was kind of Porto and Hamer got to take accountability for that second.
Is there a discussion to be had about bringing in a keeper in January? Is that a bit too reactionary?
Depends on budget priorities. I've actually already been thinking about a 5 players we should sign in January video, so I'll get to work with that and we can work on that together. Something that we can get in the new year. If the right goalkeeper becomes available, and you'd have to say, if you're looking at our set piece stats that we're conceding so many, could buy a good dominating goalkeeper help us in that, save us points, and it could be a priority. So I think the right goalkeeper comes available at the right price. It'd be silly not to.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. I have to say, I think Hamer's better than Backman with his feet, personally. But I think Hamer, similar to Backman, doesn't really impose himself in the area that well. I think one of the clear tactics, particularly from Norwich at set pieces, was just to get it on him, particularly at the end. I even saw Ashley Barnes just saying, like, mate, just get it on Hamer and see what happens, really. And to be fair, he actually dealt with it well. But because he isn't the biggest of goalkeepers. You could see why teams maybe would look to target that. And I guess what will be interesting is whether Dan comes straight back in for the next game at the weekend. Charlie, just moving on, the reaction from Watford. So we've had a really bad opening 15 minutes. Actually, just on that, what was so bad about Watford's start? Just in particular, because you said that we were bad. It wasn't Norwich being good.
Yeah, we were bad. Probably up there with the worst I've seen us this season. I was having bad flashbacks of last season, if I'm honest. But what was it down to? Lack of intensity, lack of quality on the ball, keep giving it away. The crowd seemed flat. The performances, like we weren't giving the crowd anything to cheer about. I just think it was a really bad start. But there's one man who I think really got us back into the game, and that's Ishmael Kone, scoring his first goal for Watford. I know he's been chomping at the bit to get that first goal, so I'm happy for him. And what a strike it was. Whether the keeper could have saved it, who knows? But I thought he was the real kind of difference maker in this game. I loved his performance. I love how he gets on the ball, and he feels like he's got a real gear change. He can get the ball and kind of explode into life and kind of really progress up the pitch. Just looking at some of his stats here, obviously got his goal, shows how good it was. It was only of an XG of 0.58. Accurate passes 85%. Long balls, he got 2 out of 3. 5 shots, 2 off target. I think one of those was the one that crashed against the bar in the second half. That was a great effort. Dribbles attempts, 4 out of 8, what I talked about. And then ground duels, he won 5 out of 10. I was really, really impressed with Ishmael Kone. I thought that was probably his best performance in a Watford shirt. And I'm hoping now he can kind of sustain that level, because I think he's got a really high ceiling. We spoke about on the channel, and I think he could become one of our best players. What did you make of his performance?
It's funny you say that, because Sam said to us before we went live, he couldn't make today's show, but he said, just make sure you say that Ishmael Kone has arrived in a Watford shirt. And I think what you're seeing with Kone, from my perspective, is someone who's just growing with confidence every single time he plays. Even at the end, I know it was something off the ball, but him like going to the crowd, trying to lift them up. You just feel like his personality is coming out now, on the ball, off the ball. And I think, as you said, Charlie, for me, he's become the difference maker for this Watford team. He's just got that extra bit of quality. His first touch is great. He's also got that stride. Like, I didn't appreciate until yesterday how long his legs are. Like, he covers ground so easily and he glides past players. I just think it's just a case of, can he be consistent with his performances? Can he maintain that level? Because we've seen now of Kone, the level he can reach to. But I think sometimes the drop off between his best and maybe the performance below that is quite big. So I guess it's just maintaining that level if he can. But certainly he's become that difference maker for us, and someone who could change the momentum of a match as he did yesterday. And in answer to your question at the start, could the keeper have done better? I thought in real time he probably could have. I think one thing you say about George Long, having seen a few clips of him, is that he's not great down to that side. And I think there was a few shouts for Martins to start, because he's someone who cuts in off that side and shoots into that corner. But
Just on Martins, because I saw on your TikTok you said you wanted Martins to start. There's a bit of clamour for Martins to start, and I think he's great, one of our best players. But if we want Martins to start, where does he start? Are we dropping Ken? Is Ken moving? Are we dropping Asprilla? Because I'm not sure if Martins could play on the right. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think Martins is a left winger for me. I guess the way up that Val's having at the moment is, do you bring Martins in at the sake of Rajvic, because Rajvic feeds off service from out wide with 2 traditional wingers who are going to get to the byline and get the ball in? Or do you have more of a threat maybe in terms of goals and assists and goal contributions from the left-hand side, Martins, who's quite a direct player who cuts inside? And actually, one thing I will say in a matchday TikTok, I did say I trust Val. And what was the case, as we saw against Rotherham, was the players getting to the byline and giving Rajvic service, as he did for the goal yesterday, which was, again, a good bit of movement. And that's now 7 goals, I believe, for him this season. And he now has the best goals per minute ratio in the Championship,
That's what he does.
Which is pretty impressive. The Hertfordshire Haaland. Who called it? I think was it Sam who started that trend? So, yeah, going back onto Martins, I think actually what you're saying is, if you were going to play Rajvic, you probably do need the 2 traditional wingers who are left-footed on the left side and a right-footed on the right side. This is why I'm not a football manager, because I said I'd start Martins. The one thing I would say, and about Val, I would bring him on earlier though. I just think we need to give him time to actually impact the game. And actually, to be fair, when he got brought on yesterday, he brought him on the right hand side, which is interesting because I always see Val Val bringing him on as a left sided player. So I think obviously it was the right call in the end. But I definitely think it depends on the striker. Bio, you probably think Martin should start. Rivich, the type of striker he is, you'd play Semmer and Espria.
I think one thing that might be in his consideration is defensive work. Whereas Ken, you know exactly what you're going to get. I think Ken might be more reliable. I also wanted to shout out Lewis, who I thought was really good yesterday. And I think his relationship with Ken down that left is really flourishing. And I like the way how he's going forward. He's got a lovely little step over coming in on his right foot. And that left side of Ken, Semmer and Lewis, I think, is looking pretty strong.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I just wanted to touch on that goal. So we mentioned Kone's kind of snapshot where he fired it into the bottom right-hand corner. A good finish. Keeper probably will be a little bit disappointed, probably, the fact that he got a hand to it. But then Milita Rajovic on 33 minutes. So it was 2 goals in quick succession, which swung the momentum of the match pretty quickly. I definitely saw Norwich's confidence and belief drop after that first one, because I have to say, they were relatively in cruise control of the game. As I said at the top of the show, I didn't actually expect us to get back into it, and as quickly as we did as well. And Rajovic with the goal, Charlie, I mean, as we said, the goal to minute ratio is incredible. He's scoring, he's popping up in the right positions, but it feels like there's still a discussion about his role in this team and what he offers away from the goals, which is interesting. Just expand on what you think on that.
I was just quickly looking at his accurate passes yesterday, because a couple of times in my head I thought in the second half, he's linking up and completing some passes, which is quite rare. I don't think there needs to be a discussion about Rajovic. Like, I do think his limitations are kind of linking up plays back towards goal. I think it's so clear what kind of player he is, and he's a goal scorer. He's already scored 7 goals. And he hasn't played that many games. Like I said, goals per game ratio. I even think yesterday, this might be over the top, but I actually think he's quite a smart header. Like, if he hits it full on, I think he's straight at the keeper, and he's just kind of pushed it to a side. His positioning in the box and his knack for getting in the right position is kind of really, really impressive. It's just his work, kind of linking up play. I wanted him to be a bit more physical. And even yesterday, I think he did at one point. I think he took out Duffy or something when he was a bit late. But you kind of want, even if you're not going to win headers or trap the ball and link up play, you're a big lad. Just that's what I was thinking about Leicester. Just get amongst the defenders, like drop balls, second balls that we can win. But I just think, personally, he has to start over Bayo, because he's going to score where Bayo won't. And I know Bayo's better off the ball, and he's a great option to bring on. But I think Rajovic, we know he's going to get 7 goals. If he can get, 15 goals for the amount of money we spent for him, I think that's a really good return.
Exactly. I think maybe because when we bring in a striker, you probably expect him to have a more complete game than what Rajovic has at this moment in time. Now, I'm not saying that he can't learn that, but it's, as you say, Charlie, it's quite clear what his role is. He's a box striker. He's a poacher. He'll be in the right positions, and he's finishing them off. And I have to say, there's a lot of games last season that we would have cried out for someone like Rajovic, because there's a lot of games that we probably could have won had it have not been for a bit of sloppy striking. So I think, from my perspective, I understand there's some reservations with him, but I think you've got to see him for what he is. And I think he knows what he is, which is a box striker. As I said, he'll get in the right positions, and he'll win us games as he did yesterday. And even in other games where he'll get on the score sheet, he'll be in the right position. As he say, these are smart finishes. Like, people say, yeah, it's an easy tap-in, but it's the movement to get into that position, which we have to give him credit for. Like, even if it's just getting on the back of the centre-back, creating a little bit of space, that is really good striking. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. I think he's the go-to for me, and the stats don't lie. The stats do not lie. I mean, when you look at the value we paid for him as well, Charlie, what was it? Just over $1 million?
Yeah. When you're shopping in that market, like, what are you going to expect? If you're going down to League One trying to get their top striker, I think Alfie May's top scorer in League One, but they're going to ask him for more than do you know what I mean, a couple of mils. So the fact that we can get him, I think it was a smart bit of business. And yeah, I'm just hoping that he can kick on and keep scoring those goals, because I think he could have this kind of maybe a bit of a cult figure type. I don't think he's ever going to go on to be one of our greatest ever players or anything, but I think for what he is, I'm really enjoying him.
So you're telling me maybe in like 5-6 years' time, we're going to have a compilation of the Streets Won't Forget Milita Rajovic?
Oh, man, maybe not Streets won't forget. He's a bit like I don't know, like a bit of a Primark Heider Helgeson maybe, but I'm not. I'm really enjoying him.
All right, mate. Let's shop at Primark. There's nothing wrong
Look,
with that.
other brands are available.
This isn't a sponsored show. I mean, we're Primark, but it is partnered with the Mad Squirrel. So make sure you go and check those guys out. 7 minutes away from Vicarage Road. Sam was there after the game yesterday for a post-match reaction live from the Mad Squirrel. So make sure you check that out, and make sure you check out the Mad Squirrel. The link is in the description below. Moving on to the second half, Charlie, and what was interesting about the second half was, as the stats show and the momentum bar shows, Watford were in control of it. But the one big change from the other games that we've seen before is Val took longer to make his substitutions. He ignored his sort of 60-minute mantra to change either two midfielders or two wide players, and he kept it the same. So he clearly felt that Watford were in the game. He clearly felt that we were in control of it, and it was only going one way. That's good management, because I have to say, it's ballsy, because if it hadn't have worked, people have gone, come on, mate, you've got to change it up. You've got to bring on fresh legs. And he didn't. Were you surprised that he didn't mix it up a little bit sooner?
Yeah, really surprised. I think we tweeted out 75 minutes, no subs, which I don't think's happened this season. And yeah, you touched on it earlier. I'm really liking Val's kind of versatility and the way he's adapting to things. And I thought that it was just a given, these subs, and we're always going to expect early subs, and sometimes it would be positive for us, sometimes it might be negative for us, and I was kind of happy with that if that's his way. But yesterday he showed that he was liking what he was seeing on the pitch, rewarding the players from their good performance, trusting them to go on to win the game, which he ultimately did, because he kept a Spreer on, who scored, what time did we score? 80th minute, something like that?
I think it was the 77th minute.
77th minute. So he's kept a Spreer on for that time. Somebody might have subbed, and I'm really not pleasantly surprised, but I've been quite quietly impressed with Val, what he's done. Again, I want to reference that video that the club put out, the spirit he's built in the team, and I think that had an effect on yesterday's game, where in previous seasons, 2-0 down, we'd have just gone. But there's a spirit there. I'm loving the club putting out videos of the players reacting to him having a joke with the players, smiling or hugging each other, looking like they're liking each other. And I've just been really impressed with Val adapting to things. He came out earlier in the week and said about Backman, he said, look, we would consider changing captaincy if it's for the better of the team. I think a lot of managers can be very stubborn and it's just their way. I don't want to reference a former Watford manager, but Rob Edwards, when we spoke to him at the Coach's Voice, said he was maybe a bit too stuck in his ways when he was previously at Watford and tried to make it like for like with Forest Green, playing the wing backs and stuff. He said he learned from that experience, and when he went to Luton, he just saw they were kind of a well-oiled machine as they were, so kind of kept it to him. And he talked about being able to adapt as a coach is really important. And we all had these thoughts that Val was going to be this long ball merchant, high pressing, but he's looked at the squad he's got and he's adapted. He's made a new Val Ball 2.0. So I've been really impressed with Val, so I just wanted to give him a shout out.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the point that resonated with me there was, if you had said to us last season that Watford next season would be 2-0 down at home after 15 minutes and go on to win 3-2 and be the better team, I wouldn't believe you, because last season we would have never have seen that. Genuinely, I'm convinced. And that is all from Val in terms of instilling that attitude, that belief, that desire. I know it's not those sort of tactical terms, but sometimes you just need it in games like that to come from behind and to deliver. So all credit to Val, because as you say, Charlie, the one thing that I'm enjoying about this team, and some weeks is good, some weeks is bad, is, we've won 6, we've drawn 6, we've lost 6. So it really has been up and down. But one thing you can never argue, I don't think, is the team spirit of this team is definitely there this season, and that is credit to Val. And I think that was pretty much on show yesterday. You mentioned a Spreer there, Charlie. It was his goal in the 77th minute. Watford's as the key word we've been saying in this stream was momentum. The momentum was with us. The rookery was up. The crowd was up. They sensed something was going to happen, and it did. And it was that one bit of quality from Yasser Asprilla, and the ball roll was just, oh God, I'm running out of words to describe that. I generally got home, I chucked on YouTube, and I was just in bed just watching that, thinking, wow, this is just amazing.
Where you going, mate? Get the tissues out.
People who just got an image of me in bed watching Asprilla's ball roll, but Charlie raised an eyebrow for people who didn't see. But that is just a gorgeous bit of skill. In that quick thinking in that moment is different quality.
Yeah, real composure. But I just wanted to go before that. It all comes from a Wesley Hoot, decent strike from outside the area. Unfortunately, Wesley didn't execute his overhead kick, trying to outdo Garnacho from the other day. But again, just that a lot of shots, which that's what we want to see as fans. Wesley Hoot, decent strike. And it comes out to Asprilla. Like you said, when the ball's on that high pressure environment, you see a lot of people snatching it. To have that composure, calm himself down, just roll it past the keeper and just getting the contact to get it over the line. The anxiety of the way he didn't celebrate, it didn't go in, did it not go in? Was there an offside? It was like, couldn't celebrate properly. But when you saw it go in, there was a real relief, and chuffed for Yasser, who, again, I thought had a solid game. I don't think he was great first half. Second half, he looked a lot more likely. But that bit of quality, if we didn't have that, we probably wouldn't have won that game. Like I said, that ball roll was magnificent.
Oh, gorgeous. And it was weird, actually, being in the ground when there was that pause. I can't remember the last time that happened at a Watford game, where probably since the Premier League, where you have to wait for VAR or something, and there's a pause before you celebrate. And it was really weird because people started celebrating, you went flat, and then as soon as the referee pointed to his watch, everyone went mental. I think also, just to shout out Ryan Porteous, who put his body on the line for absolutely no benefit in the end whatsoever. I think he got injured in the end, Porto, and had a bit of a clash of heads, trying to get his head onto it. But that bit of skill was just, it wasn't championship skill, if that makes sense. Like, that was a skill that you look at the top players and think they would execute that. So, and the confidence to do it at that point as well was just sensational. And then Watford had a bit of a period to see out. But at any point, Charlie, did you feel nervy? Because we do have a Watford wobble. It does feel like sometimes that you always feel it's inevitable that they are going to have a chance. And we did start to drop off a little bit. There was a chance, as I mentioned, where Hoot had to stick his leg out and slide tackle and block it, and he did really well. I thought Hoot, as you say, had a great game actually yesterday. But yeah, did you feel like it was relatively comfortable, in inverted commas?
Never completely comfortable, but in terms of Watford level, fairly comfortable. Had a couple of corners towards the end in there. I was thinking, oh Jesus, here we go. But we saw it out. I think it was a really important win, and just one player that I wanted to mention. In fact, I wanted to mention one player who I want to apologise to, Jake Livermore. I did not recognise your game. I actually watched one of our previous videos before this to get some quotes about what we were saying before about Jake Livermore signing. It's a bit like a movie trailer, so I'll start off with mine. I think I'd prefer to keep Dan Gosling. That's from me. Sam Yuko, Jake Livermore, no thanks. And to your credit, I think you were the most accurate. You said reminds me of Jack Rodwell. I don't hate it as a backup.
I mean, yeah, that's doing the man a disservice. I think, to be fair, what I did, I do remember we did a stream. I'm not just saying this to try and show myself up. I think I did say after we played Stoke away, and you could tell he was getting his fitness up, and I liked the way he was marshalling everyone, he was communicating, because I felt like we missed that. And I think the one phrase that Harry used on the last podcast was, and video, was bringing that championship nous. We've missed a player like that, like proper experienced leader in the centre of the pitch. He just knows where to be at the right time. Look, he's no Andrea Pirlo, but what he is, he gets in the right position. He man marks, he gets his tackles in. He just does the stuff that you need from your central midfielder, right, Charlie? And I think his performance yesterday was justified with the Man of the Match award from Sky Sports.
Yeah, his positioning, where to be, how to get his body in the way of things. He had Ashley Barnes on a leash. He took him for a walk. It was great to see. I'm just getting his stats up here because I just wanted to highlight how good I thought he was yesterday. You can see where he's getting about in the park, important places for his positioning. Having a look here, accurate passes 91%, so that's even higher than Kone. Long balls, he got 4 out of 5, so even on the ball he was great. But then if you look at defensive stats, ground duels he won 3, clearances, block shots 1, interceptions 2, tackles 2. He did get dribbled past once.
And just to add to that, I think what the stats don't show is actually the moments he does it in and where he does it on the pitch. Because sometimes you felt that Norwich were on the break, we needed someone to mop up. He does that. So whilst the stats are great on paper, I think when you actually apply it, when you watch the game and you think the positions he does it in, the time of the match he does it in, I think at the end you could tell he'd played 2 games back to back quite quickly. He looked a little bit leggy at the end, and that's one thing that I think we need to mention going forward is, do we bring in that backup to him, someone who can rotate if he isn't 100%? Because it is asking a lot for a 34-year-old to play every game in the Championship. I think we know that, and particularly the position he's in. But Charlie, just explain that stat on the screen there, mate, because he's second in the table for it.
Yeah, just wanted to highlight this, which I saw this morning, which really impressed me. This is the list of the whole league in the Championship, and this is percentage of dribbles tackled. So dribblers tackled divided by number of attempts to challenge an opposing dribbler. So Jake Livermore second in the entire league there. I just think he's just shocked me how good he's been. Yesterday, I thought his best performance. It was like watching a peak N'Golo Kante at times. The way he was just reading the game, getting his foot in, and I think we can't even underestimate the stuff he's doing off the pitch in terms of leadership, communication, helping the younger players. So, Jake, I'm sorry, you've been great this season. So keep up the good work.
If he's watching as well, I think the one thing also to say. Just on Livermore as well is it's the intangibles, as we said, the sort of the leadership, the experience, when to do things at certain points in the game. But yeah, I think justifiably he was my man of the match yesterday. And the other standouts for me, I think if we're going to pick a top 3 for me, Charlie, Livermore, Kone, who were probably my 3 standout players. Would you disagree?
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout of Edinho, as Val calls him, Kayembe, who I thought, again, really accomplished performance. I think his work on the ball, he's got really decent touch, good pass of the ball, and I think that midfield is looking really, really good. So I've been surprised about Kayembe. He's not scared to having a strike. He moves the ball quite well. I do think he's better in possession than out possession. Sometimes he can look a bit not very dynamic, but I've been impressed and surprised about Kayembe because no one would have had a midfield of Livermore, Kone and Kayembe at the start of the season.
Very true. So just on Watford as a whole, as I said, Watford have won 6 in the Championship. They've drawn 6 and they've lost 6 in their opening 18 games. We're 5 points worse off than we were at this stage last season. But interestingly enough, Charlie, the feeling I have with this team is completely different to the feeling I had with the team last season at the stage this time last year. I think we were on to Slaven Bilic at that point in the season. We didn't really know what we were going to achieve if we were going to go up. I think we all knew that we weren't, but that was still the target, as it was being made pretty clear. It feels easier to be a Watford fan now because, number one, the attitude, the belief, the sort of morale of the team's pretty good. It feels like Val's starting to change that culture just slowly and gradually, in particular that team spirit. It takes time. We're not saying just after winning against Norwich, we're saying this as a whole. So at this point now, after 18 games, where do you see this team? Because we've on the back of a Leicester 1-0 defeat and now a 3-2 win to Norwich. Does that kind of sum up where we are at this point?
Yeah, and even I know I wasn't on the stream on Sunday, but I thought for portions of that Leicester game, I thought the game plan was quite smart. Like if we went at them like we did against Leeds or so, we'd have got ripped apart. So second half we lost control a bit, especially with the subs. But yeah, this was never going to be a quick fix with all the players leaving. I think there was 20 odd players leaving, new manager coming in, new players coming in, new identity. I think the fitness has been something that needs to be credited. We've got just one injury with Ngakia, whereas this time last season we probably had 10 injuries. So I put that down to Val. And I've just like you said, we've stuck together. The spirit's been a lot better. And I think we put a stat out that only I think Leicester, Ipswich, and West Brom have got a better home record. So when you're winning at home, that helps as well. So I feel like there's good vibes around the club. I think we've got some really, really tough games coming up. And that's I'm hoping we can kind of be steady. We're not going to win all those games. There's going to be some defeats, but I hope we can see some good performances. And I'd love to see a really, really strong away performance against a top team that can show this team can get to another level. I think one thing that's helped this season, our expectations have dropped, which has helped us as fans. We're enjoying it a lot more because we know we don't have to go up. And if we can get through to January in a good position, some good results through the Christmas period, let's see what we can do in January. And I'm not saying playoffs, but let's just finish on a good end to the season. If we can see that progression throughout the season, I think we can all be happy as fans. It's enjoyable at the moment.
I agreed. It is enjoyable. It's enjoyable watching this team develop as well, and actually seeing players develop, particularly the younger players, actually having the space and the opportunity to make mistakes. I think, someone who summed that up yesterday was Andrews, because I thought in the first half I think he'd admit he'd struggled with some of his passes, struggled to really maybe get a foothold of the game. But second half, you saw his performance grow. And I think in previous seasons, there might have not been the environment for him to do that.
Just wanted to highlight one more thing. And I don't know what you think, but I was seeing who done the predictions for the Norwich game, who done what. And there's no predictions. Sam Yuko, what's going on? So I don't know what you think, or people in the comments, but should Sam get a minus mark for this slack?
I think we leave it.
Or is that just through my agenda?
I mean, look, Charlie, I'm on your side here, mate. We've earned the forfeit. Look, if you think that Sam should be deducted, not Charlie. Charlie needs the points. If Sam should be deducted points, let us know in the comment section. I'm certainly signing towards that. So Sam, if you're watching, shocker. Watford 3, Norwich 2. Good win for Watford. Just to wrap up today, where that leaves us in the table, because going into it did feel like a must win in the sense that, especially the way Norwich have been playing recently under David Wagner.
With the fixtures coming up, certainly.
Yeah, exactly. With Hull City away on Saturday, and then a home games against Southampton, Ipswich, Preston, Blackburn. You look at that run and you think we needed that yesterday. But Watford go above Norwich in the table, up to 13th, 18 games played, 24 points. So we are slap bang in the middle of the championship.
How many points of the playoffs?
We are 6 points off the playoffs, and we're 11 points off. It's 3 that go down, isn't it? Right, 20. So 11 points off the bottom, but no one's looking down anyway. Just to highlight, we are slap bang in the middle of the league. So, big period coming up for Watford. Charlie, just your predictions for Hull at the weekend. That's probably it's the start of that tough run away at Liam Rossini's. Hull City have been playing some good football this season, particularly at home.
Yeah, I really, really like Liam Rossini. I think he could be managing in the Premier League in a couple of years. So really impressed with what he's been doing at Hull. It's a tough game, but player for player, they got Jadon Philogene, who's on absolute fire at the moment. Just because I haven't seen it before, I'm not expecting like a good away win personally. I'd be really happy with a 1-1 draw, but for the predictions league, unfortunately, I'll go for a 2-1 defeat.
I was going to go 1-1 draw actually. I think we might nick a point. I did consider going to Hull away. I've never been. Have you been to Hull?
I'm not been to Hull and back.
It's one of those you want to tick off, but I couldn't make it in the end. I looked at the trains as well, and it's like 3.5 hours each way. And if you go on the coach, I'd imagine it'd be a little bit longer. So respect to every Watford fan who's making the trip at the weekend. But not a bad time to be going after a 3-2 win against Norwich. Thanks so much to Charlie and to everyone who watched today. Really do appreciate it. Make sure you leave your comments in the comment section below. Leave a like on the stream. If you're listening to this on audio, make sure to leave us a review. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys. Take care.